And we're back. Hel-
Welcome back to Beyond the Coach podcast. I'm Coach Chris.
And I am Coach Kelsey, and we are your hosts. So, what are we chatting about today, Chris?
I'm so excited for this podcast because I feel like it can get a little spicy and I feel like people need to hear this. The red flags and green flags of online coaches and just like online coaching overall. Um, so I feel like we both had experiences as far as our coaching and hiring coaches ourselves, seeing, I mean, we've worked with hundreds of clients at this point where we've seen their experiences too. So just tying it all in, I feel like we have a lot of information to give you guys. And the whole point of this isn't to bash anybody. The whole point is to educate and to help our listeners be better coaches themselves and how to learn from maybe mistakes that we've seen in the industry, mistakes we've made in the industry, mistakes that our clients have relayed to us that other coaches have made. So there's no shame if you if you're hearing this and you're like, oh shoot, like I see myself checking those boxes or maybe creeping into that. Like there's no shame in it. Everybody's learning, and we had to learn to get to the point where we can even speak on these things, similar to what we did with our ins and outs episode too.
That's such a good point. This isn't to bash on anyone. It's actually just to bring to light things that we see going on in the industry that the industry is ever evolving. And so it's like get on board or like get left behind kind of thing. But it's also like us creating a world of more quality coaches, and it's not like, oh, we're better than you or they're better than us, and like whatever it is, like we're all in this together to help create a healthier world. And I think when we all can work together, that makes it like such a better place for not just coaches but also for clients alike. So what I basically did, I just asked ChatGPT, and then we can obviously build off of this. But I asked them like what common things online coaches do. So I'm just gonna run through some of the lists, and then we can kind of have a candid conversation about them.
Yeah.
So
ChatGPT is so fun to put prompts in. Like it's so again, going back to our ins and outs, like use ChatGPT. It's gonna come up with also like what most people are thinking or what most people see in the industry. So I'm excited to pick the list apart that ChatGPT gives and then also add our own elements to it as well.
yeah, okay. I'm gonna start with a hot one. Meal plans.
Mm.
Only giving meal
For
plans.
those of you who don't know, it is illegal for personal trainers to write meal plans. So I feel like this is so common, and probably so many of our listeners have felt this. People come to them, they're like seeking nutrition help, fitness help, and they're like, I just need a meal plan. Like I just need someone to write me a meal plan, all this stuff. And it makes me want to literally hit my head against a wall. I'm like, no, you need more than a meal plan. You really do. I will say I haven't seen a lot of recently, at least on my feed, personal trainers talking about producing meal plans for clients. Like we produce examples for clients. Like we'll be like, hey, here's an example day of eating, here's this. Like there's ways that you can kind of deliver that need to a client without tailoring and subscribing or prescribing an actual meal plan to someone. I felt like this was a bigger issue actually in the in-person realm. Like I found this when I was working in person. You have box gyms, you have trainers, you have these people who are like, yeah, I'll provide a meal plan for you. And a little bit of context on my history, I actually worked for a kickboxing gym many years ago now. And I actually ended up quitting because they were prescribing meal plans to their members. And not one of us were certified personal trainers, first off. We were literally certified through the gym. Like a lot of gyms will do that, where the gym is like, get our certification. You don't need to be, nationally accredited, anything like that. So wrong. But I was trained, I was certified through their stuff. And then they were prescribing meal plans, and I was to sell these meal plans and to pretty much create like ultimatums with clients based on meal plans. So I just have a very like big ick against them simply because I've been in the seat of the trainer having to sell these meal plans. And I've also been the consumer of watching other people have to give that. And then more importantly, I've seen the clients that come in from working with trainers who have given meal plans when they should never have given them, and they reap the benefits so much more of learning macros and calories, despite clients probably thinking like, well, why can't I just get a meal plan that's so much easier?
Yeah. I think so. kind of like you were saying, we give examples. I'll have clients who don't prefer to track macros and will go plate method, or I'll say like, hey, at this meal, I want you to have a serving of protein, carbs, vegetables, fats, whatever that looks like. I'm not telling them what to have. It's more so just like, this is what your meals could look like to build balanced meals. And it's more so, I want to teach you how to actually build a balanced meal because most people don't know. Like, if you think of the standard American diet, the SAD diet is actually what it's like, that actually like stands for. Is like, think about commercials from the early 2000s. It was like you had a bowl of cereal and a piece of toast with butter on it. And like, yeah, you have a little bit of protein from the milk, but like there's not actually, and I will say that's probably not like, maybe it is standard. I don't know. Or it's like grab and go. Let's get a coffee and a donut on the way to work. Again, there's no, my camera is driving me nuts. There's no like protein source in there. And so it's more so educating on that sense, but it's not, I know somebody who has some thyroid issues and has been eating super low for so long, and against the advice that I gave of eating more food and that kind of thing, they're actually on a meal plan right now with a coach eating like 1,250 calories. And I'm like, why? When you have hypothyroidism, that's the option, versus trying to heal hormones through eating enough food for your body. So it definitely still is happening, but I will say it's happening less. Like, as coaches are seeing, I think Instagram has helped with that a little bit too. So
Yeah, I will sub hot take on this. Doctors who prescribe meal plans, nothing grinds my gears more than going to a 5-minute doctor's appointment and your doctor is suddenly a dietitian and suddenly knows how to tell you how to eat. When, I'm sorry, I've worked with doctors as clients, they are not the pinnacle of health. They are not typically eating enough food, fueling their body enough, getting enough protein, getting in their vegetables. That's a whole side tangent, but just like, big red flag. If a doctor, a online coach, a personal trainer, a supplement company is giving out these meal plans, it's wrong. It's so wrong. And there are so many other resources that can be better beneficial to clients. And as coaches, we can support them through that in other avenues and other ways. And again, creating example day of eatings. Maybe you hop on a call with them and you teach them how to pre-track a day of eating. Like, maybe your client has never tracked macros before. We all started somewhere. Teaching the act of pre-tracking, creating a module for your clients to understand how to do that, to almost like make their own meal plan, because a lot of times clients don't even get to eat what they love. And this is where we can get into discussions of disordered eating and people developing that from meal plans that they think are helpful that actually end up very much damaging their relationship with food long term.
Yep. The last thing I'll say is like, macros just teach you how to eat what you want and fit it into your day, and they're so helpful. And then registered dietitians are literally the only people who should be giving meal plans because they have a deeper understanding of nutrition and the client and what they specifically need. So leave it to the pros. Let's go to check-in process. So there's so many different ways that you can check in with a client. I used to get email responses from a coach. There's voice memos and Loom videos, also Zoom videos. Like, where are we feeling on if a coach is only doing, well, I guess, where do we feel on that? What are red flags, green flags? What is that in there? Types of check-ins.
Green flags for me is giving longer than a 1-minute check-in video. I have heard stories of coaches and very high up there coaches literally giving written out 1 to 2 sentence responses to check-in, sending a Loom video that's a minute or less, pretty much just saying, hey, stamp of approval, here's for next week. Maybe that works for some clients, but even for me investing in coaches, like, I'm a coach myself. My coach doesn't need to sit on the other end of the check-in and tell me how to track macros, tell me about pre-tracking, but still my check-ins can be, 4 to 5 minutes at a time still, where she's educating me, at least looking over my numbers, explaining things to me. And so while some check-ins may be shorter, like if your client didn't submit a check-in or something, or they submitted one with like no information, maybe it's a little bit shorter, but coaches who are delivering these very like half-ass, no detail, no education, check-ins to clients, and in a way are kind of like gatekeeping informations from clients as well, to almost just like keep them guessing. I don't believe in that method. I believe educating, being transparent, giving detail, setting time aside to make every single client feel like a person versus a number, because those coaches that are likely delivering like 1 minute or less voice memos, they're probably working with hundreds of clients at that point just to fill their roster. And that's not fair to anybody investing that money. So that is a red flag of mine. Green flag would be that they're delivering really good check-ins. I will say, for our coaches here, you might think weekly Zoom check-ins are a great idea. I would stay away from them unless you are charging an appropriate amount of money for your time. But also I find like clients need the time to go and implement, and maybe a monthly Zoom call or a bi-weekly Zoom call, depending on what level of service you are giving to someone, is more appropriate. I'm not saying that it's a red flag. I'm just saying, like, one, it's a scheduling nightmare. And two, I think that your time is more valuable than probably what you're charging if you're doing weekly check-in Zoom calls.
Yeah, I would agree with what you said. I think too, if you're doing email check-in, email correspondence, even a quick voice memo, if the cost matches that, great. If you're charging $300 a month, $250 a month, like, for sure, do that because it matches your rates. But if you're charging $600, $700, $800 a month and you're just sending a quick email response of like, good job, keep going, like, red flag. Green flag is, and I would also say on the opposite end of that, if you're charging $250 to $300 and you're sending a detailed Loom message and being super helpful, also a red flag for yourself.
Yeah.
Like, charge more. Like, I'm not always for people increasing their prices, but also like charge the value you're giving and don't be afraid to do that. And yeah, I think just giving value in check-ins is huge. I think a lot of coaches have maybe a little bit of a scarcity mindset here. Like, if I give too much, if I'm too helpful, my coach won't want to resign. My client won't want to resign. But that's, dude, somebody like graduating from your program and feeling good enough to go off on their own. That's my favorite message, is getting messages from clients. Like, I just got one like last week. It was like, so glad to see you're doing so well. You'd be happy to know I'm like prioritizing my morning workouts. I'm eating like, I'm prioritizing protein and fresh fruits and veggies, and like, I'm just doing super well on my own. And I just want to thank you. Like, it's so good to know what I'm doing is proper for my body and it's healthy. Like, that is the best message. Like, yeah, I'm not making money off of that person anymore. Like, I'm not getting income from them, but like, I did my job. So like, that's also really cool. So just being super helpful however you can while someone is paying you will pay you dividends in the future because you just helped one more person.
Yeah. I agree.
Let's see. How do we feel about when a client is complaining that they're too busy and a coach is just like, well, we all have the same 24 hours.
Bro, we don't. We literally don't. No two coaches have the same 24 hours in a day, even. Like,
we all have 24 hours. That would be correct.
And
yes,
all of us don't have
but
enough
not the same
24 hours in the day.
I would love 30 hours.
We all need maybe an extra 6 hours or so. The coaches who just say, you just got to do it. Everybody has the same 24 hours. No, they don't. Like, if you are taking a mom of 3 kids who works, a full-time job in comparison to, let's say, a college student in her 20s, in comparison to maybe a single girly, corporate girly, right out of college. She's, independent. She's on her own. Everybody is going to have a different set of circumstances. And I can't say it enough with the trainers that go out there. Like, I'm a tough love trainer. Like, I will always give the tough love. I will always give the honesty. I will always tell the hard truth based on somebody's reality, based on what I know about somebody's reality, not based off of this premise, this expectation that everybody has the same 24 hours. I also don't think it's fair when coaches don't realize that literally being an entrepreneur is a luxury, in the sense of we create our schedule. And I think sometimes coaches get so far removed from remembering that there's this world of people working corporate jobs. They're literally in an office 9 to 5. They can't just go on a walk randomly at this time. They can't just do that. So those coaches that are just almost acting like everybody just has the level of flexibility that they do is a big red flag on that front. Green flag are the coaches who want to get to know what somebody's lifestyle is and make the effort towards understanding that lifestyle and making micro shifts and micro changes to actually help coach that person instead of saying, hey, this is your whole new routine. I always tell people, actually on sales calls, when we're talking to people, I'm like, I'm not here to make health and fitness your life. Like, it's not going to be ever consuming. I'm here to make health and fitness fit into your life, into the life that already exists, into the hobbies, into what you love, into what you don't love. I'm here to find a way to blend it together. Is that going to come with obviously some challenges, some resistance? Absolutely. You're going to be making changes to some degree. But it's not going to come with me unrealistically setting a different expectation for you than what your lifestyle can actually give.
Yeah. This is why I emerged. I literally say the same thing. I'm not here to make like health and fitness your life. I'm here to make it fit into your life in some way, shape, and form. And yeah, I just think it also just comes with learning over time and putting yourself in positions as a coach to better understand. For whatever reason, I've always attracted like a lot of mom clients, but I'm not a mom. I'm a dog mom. But I also understand because I have a lot of friends who have kids and I understand the like importance that obviously like having your own time away from your kids and being able to prioritize your health is, but also understanding that there's certain times where you literally cannot get away from your children and they are going to be hanging on you. And so understanding that we have to find a way to fit the program into the client's life so that they don't feel overwhelmed. That's probably
Yeah.
why your clients aren't doing a good job of adhering, is because we aren't finding a way to fit it into your life. It's just like, well, this is what worked for me, so we're going to make it happen for you. And so that's where understanding each and every person and understanding the psyche of your clients also plays a factor.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to add to that too, it's like, everybody has a ceiling and everybody's ceiling is going to be a little bit different as far as capacity and like you said, what they can, what they can't do. And so just really meeting your clients where they are. And as coaches, sometimes we have to be okay doing something different than maybe what is directly in our values and beliefs and, systems and practices. Sometimes you may have to meet a client where they're at, and that may come with you saying, okay, well, typically I believe in this and I preach that. But right now, for this specific person, how can I bridge a gap? Like, how can I literally meet in the middle? How can I make the barrier to entry of them working on themselves as easy to access as possible? And that may come with, again, just modifying some things. Maybe you're somebody who's like, I only believe in tracking all macros all the time. Maybe you're a bodybuilding coach and like that's literally what you are focused on. A mom of 3 kids, maybe you just need to start with calories. Maybe you need to set up literally, like Kelsey was saying, going back to meal plans, like here's how to build a balanced plate. Every meal, I want you to get one source of protein. I want you to have one color on your plate. And I want you to have, I don't know, a healthy fat there in the mix somewhere, right? And then 2 to 3 snacks. Like maybe you just need to give the structure there that may not be as efficient in your eyes, but actually is going to be a huge change for somebody else because you're not coming where they came from.
Yep. Agreed. All right, let's move on. What about the client with a specific niche? Or not the client, the coach. Coaches that have specific niches, for me, green flag. Kind of going back to what you just said, if you're a bodybuilding coach, that's so cool. Like, I would never coach somebody in a bodybuilding competition because I'm not set to do that. That's not a niche of mine. But if it is, hammer down on that. And maybe you don't coach the client that is super busy and can't have, and that's not to say you can't, right? But like, be really, really good at a niche and like, you're going to stand out in that arena. Where there is coaches that maybe have experienced the busy mom life or the busy 9 to 5 corporate life that now can be in the position to help people that are in that position. I see a lot of like ex-nurses helping nurses. Like, I actually find it, I love helping nurses. At the same time, I know that I'm also not maybe the best person to help a nurse because I've never lived the life of overnight shifts and working 3 12s and then having 4 days off. So I think it's really cool that we have coaches in the industry that maybe are current, even like first responders, firefighters, helping those people. For me, I love working with ex athletes because I understand that we have an identity as an athlete and then it's lost. Once you stop playing, you're like, I had a coach telling me what to do forever. And now it's like, I'm on my own and I don't know exactly what do I keep pushing as hard as I did as an athlete? Do I do double days like I did in preseason? Like, what do I do now? How can I still compete in things? And I think just being able to niche down and help people in a specific realm, it not only creates a more confident coach in you that you feel good in what you're doing, but it also is the best thing for the client too.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love my ex athletes. I love my coaches. I feel like because I can resonate the most with them. And I think your ideal client can also evolve with time. Your niche can evolve with time too. Like, was I targeting coaches 5 years ago? No. Like, I was, not,
Yeah.
that wasn't in my wheelhouse. That wasn't what I wanted to do at the time. And that's now what I love to do, but it came with years of learning the industry, years of being an entrepreneur and an online coach myself, years of educating myself. And I think coaches that put in the work for that to evolve their niche is a huge green flag. Like, coaches who are doing the courses and coaches who do have that specific niche, I think is great because those people need a place. Like, I love, our friend Christy. She's amazing. She is a mom herself. Shout out to Christy if she's listening to this.
We
But
love you, Christy.
I love you, Christy. But I've loved seeing the evolution of her. Like, her niche wasn't postpartum, pregnant and postpartum. And now that she's a mom herself, she's developed an amazing community for moms because moms need that and moms
Yeah.
want that. And it's going to be so different, obviously, program to program. But I think it's a huge green flag to have a coach who has a niche. I don't think it's a terrible thing. At the same time, I will say, like, I will always work with someone that I think I can help. And I will stay in my scope of practice with that.
Mm-hmm.
That means that I do work with corporate women. I do work with nurses. I do work with other people because it's just the potential as coaches to say, this is still in my scope of practice. I still think I can help this person,
Yep.
not I think I can just make a sale off of this person. It's, can you genuinely help them? Because that's how you build a legacy in your business too, is giving a great service, getting people results. That's going to build referrals. It's going to do so much. It's going to just really help like snowball the whole thing for you to build and build and build this legacy for yourself. So there's a mix of that, like green flag, red flag, like when you think of niches and when you think of what
Yeah.
somebody's doing out on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you said, like not just taking someone just to take the sale, make sure you actually can help them. And I think that also comes along with when you're first starting coaching, be open to coaching many different people. I like didn't niche down for at least 2 years in my business. I took on anyone and everyone. And as much it did lead me to a little bit of burnout, I also got to learn who I do and don't love working with and the people that I did want to accept in my program. And so I think there's an element of like over time you can niche down. And figure out who it is that you actually work best with and the type of clients that you aren't best set up to work with. And I think too, when you aren't accepting someone into your program, making sure it's clear that it's like, hey, it's not like no one can help you. It's that I'm not the best person to help you. However, I have such a connection in the industry. I would love to point you in the right direction. That's something I really started to do back in like 2023, I would say, was when I really started to actually get like a good network of different friends that I have that I know would be so much better set off to work with a certain person. And the person was actually so open to that. And I obviously asked, like, are you open to having, like, to me, giving you a list of other people I think would really help, or open to you sharing, like me sharing your contact info with those coaches that can help, because I want to get you set up with a person. And it actually, I remember one person that I sent to my friend Brooke, and she was like, thank you so much. And I was like, she's doing great. She's crushing the program, and things like that are super awesome when you just know you set the client up for more success. And also kind of stayed in your lane too, of like, I just knew I wasn't the best person. And I think that comes with a little bit of like humility for you as a coach, of just knowing that you're not going to help everybody and you're not the best person to help everyone, but that's okay because you are the best person to help someone else.
Yeah, I completely agree.
There's one that like on here is like cringy coaching habits, and it's like obsession with burpees. Like, I don't think that's really a thing. I just thought it was funny. Um, which one do we need? Okay, like, how do we feel about just like I mean, cookie cutter workouts, but also just like putting your clients, like all clients on the same programs and just like copy pasting it into a program. Um, because any workout is something, right? It's better than nothing.
I this is like the conversation of like calories, right? Like somebody who should just track calories versus someone who should track macros. It's like, okay, if you calories will get you into a calorie deficit, right? If you're in a calorie deficit, that'll help with weight loss. If you're tracking macros, that's going to help with fat loss, that's going to help with your body composition, that's going to help with your performance. That's how I would compare a cookie cutter program is almost like the calories,
Mm,
and a tailored program, an individualized program is like the macros.
it's good.
Anybody can walk into the gym. Anybody can walk into the gym and do a workout. You're burning calories, you're moving your body. That should be celebrated. That should be celebrated in of itself. But then comes people with specific goals and people who are also spending a decent amount of money on a coach. I think tailoring and individualization is so huge. I more recently went through an experience with a online coach that I was not getting individualized workouts, and I knew it. I knew it because I'm on this 2-year chronic back pain journey at this moment, and I just knew. I knew nothing was individualized, and it sucks because I know that there's probably a lot of clients that company is working with that's getting these just cookie cutter. I did not see results. I did not improve my pain. I did not have the physique changes I wanted. I didn't gain the strength I wanted. I didn't see the improvement. The coach I'm working with now, night and day difference. I know that my workouts are tailored. I know that they are making my workouts intentional towards me. And already in just a month of working with this coach, I've improved my strength. My physique is already changing. I'm having less pain. I haven't had one flare up in a workout. And it's, again, night and day difference. So workouts, amazing. Workouts, great. If you're getting workouts, 100% you should when you're working with a coach. But do you just want to get into the gym and burn calories, or do you actually want to make a difference in your life? That's where both of those comparisons come into play.
Yeah. I don't think it's bad to have skeleton programs. Let me be clear. I think a skeleton program can be helpful in terms of like, let's say it's just set up to be like, hey, put in a squat movement pattern here, put in a hinge movement pattern here, put in a lunge movement pattern here, and like kind of building your days that way, but you're more tailoring the exercise to that client. I will say I probably not waste, but I spend a lot more time programming than I probably need to because I do tailor all my clients' programs to them and it does take more time. But it's always a give and take. Like we were kind of talking about in our second episode about ins and outs of AI and automations. Well, now I can take some of my business and automate it and use AI and to take time off my plate for those things so that I'm giving my clients a more tailored experience. And that's why I also keep my roster low because I recognize that I don't want to dilute my coaching services just because I'm too busy as a business owner. And so I do spend more time than I should programming, and I'm okay with that. It's a lot, but it's also like I know I'm giving my clients now a good service. Whereas I know there is some companies that coaches have 70, 80, dare I say 90 to 100 clients, and there is no personalization in the programming. And what I have an issue with that is what happens when the client gets injured. What happens when a specific movement pattern is bothering them and they aren't sure how to fix their form or they aren't sure why it's causing pain. And maybe we do need to adjust the range of motion or adjust the load or adjust the volume. But like, if you are a coach who maybe doesn't have a a personal training cert, which I know that's also happening, and you aren't qualified to change those things, one, that's a huge insurance issue. Like your ass isn't covered now. But two, like you're just doing the client such a disservice and it does make me sad. So I would say like it's a red flag if you just have too many clients. And I just know like for assistant coaches, that's unfortunately the name of the game when you are working for another company and you don't have control necessarily over your pay. But that also goes back to the client of just doing your research and taking on a coach that is actually spending the time to tailor your program to you so you're not getting injured or re-injured in your case, Chris. And I know that too with my knee. It's like I have special considerations and I just have to be careful when I'm increasing volume or, you know, doing a certain amount of movement. And I know that too with my knee. It's like I have special considerations and I just have to be careful when I'm increasing volume or, you know, doing a certain amount of movement. And I know that too with my knee. It's like I have special considerations and I just have to be careful when I'm increasing volume or, load or trying new movement patterns to just keep that in mind with my knee. So yeah, that's an interesting one. I know it saves you time to template things, but it's also like, are you doing the best possible thing for your client at that point?
Yeah, I think the skeleton stuff, like you were saying, like a skeleton structure program, something isn't a terrible thing because like programming is programming, structure is structure. Like you still want to have a hinge movement, a squat movement, like you still want to have those exercises or at least movement patterns in there. And that's where, going back to like barrier of entry, I said it earlier, it's like your role as a coach is to increase the barrier of entry for a client to have pain-free movement, build strength, see the physique changes they want, see the biofeedback changes that they want. And unfortunately, that's not going to come from these templated programs all the time. Like in true cookie cutter, like you literally have maybe a 12-month program that you just subscribe everybody to and you don't bother ever touching it after the year, or until the year is up when they're really due for like a new 12-month block, whatever it may be. You just have to see it as the barrier of entry that you're creating for your clients, and that's not getting created with cookie cutter programs.
Yeah. Yeah. I could honestly like I talk about that forever because I love programming. It's so fun to me. But unfortunately it's just maybe I just nerd out over that. Maybe that's just my excitement.
Have our own episode dedicated just to literally programming. Like all
Programming.
things programming.
Yeah. All right. So do you have any that you wanted to share? I guess first before I scroll and find some other ones.
So one that I want, again, this could be controversial, but online coaches that are not nationally accredited, or also business coaches who tell online coaches that they do not need to have a certification and do not need any experience. Thoughts?
Yeah. So, okay. I do think to a level. So like we have insurance as an online coach because frankly, I don't want to be sued, and that certification protects you. Now, do I feel like certifications are everything? Absolutely not. Do they protect you? Yes. And I think it is important. Being like, you could get the cheapest national certification and just have it to save your ass, but then do other research, do other like certifications that can help you more specifically, get your own coach, those kinds of things. Those are the things that make you better coaches. Like, I think this is a gray area, almost a beige flag, if you will. Coaches that are like, you have to have a certification to be a good coach. I disagree with that. I think there's tons of horrible coaches that do have a certification. There's the other side of it that's like, don't get a certification, it's a waste of money. Well, it's like, no, because now no one's covering your ass. That certifying body is covering your ass in the case that someone comes and sues you. And that's how I see it. It's like, I will always have my NASM certification. Did it help me as a coach? No, not really. I mean, sure, to an extent. It helped me learn the basics of volume and prescribing sets, reps, exercises, different exercises, that kind of thing. Absolutely. And it was definitely a stepping stone. It was necessary when I did get it back in 2017. Like, I don't use anything from it anymore, but it's necessary. At the same time, I don't like, yes, I think it's a red flag when people say, don't get it at all. It is a red flag to me because it's like, now we're just putting uneducated coaches into the industry. And I'm saying like, it's not the end all be all. It's kind of like a degree. Like, I have a degree in health and human performance, but I'm not out here flexing it and being like, well, I have a degree, so I know more than everyone. Like, my degree I got it 8 years ago. Like, the things I learned back then, I'm relearning now, right? I'm like re-educating myself on. So red flag, but also a red flag if you're saying it's the end all be all. So I think there's like a middle ground of like, get it, but also educate yourself further.
I agree. Yeah. I think just the world of online, it's like I get frustrated when you have the business coaches saying you don't need any certification at all. Like, I'm sorry, that business coach is just trying to grab at your money. The business coach is just trying to give you the confidence to literally sign up for their program if you are completely inexperienced. Having a baseline of knowledge, having experience, having certifications, having those things are super important. But similar to Kelsey, like, I have my NASM, and it literally did nothing for me. Like, and anybody can take a test and pass a test. Like, I'm sorry, anybody literally can do that.
Yep.
I think it's the
Yep.
coaches that walk the walk, talk the talk, and get that accreditation for, like you said, protection. And it is a great baseline or starting point. But a lot of what I do as a coach now and the knowledge I've had did not come from NASM. It came from other certifications and the continuing education. I think what I love about my NASM is I'm motivated to keep it. And in order to keep it, you need to have continuing education. So I am pouring in to investing in myself, getting continuing education to keep my NASM. But that continuing education is what makes me a better coach and where I get to teach more. And, there's so many different continuing educations, which is so amazing. So yeah, it's just one of those gray area things. I don't think NASM is, I don't think a CPT is the best qualifier necessarily. You obviously need one to work in person in a gym. But I just don't think it's the qualifier. I think that's someone's experience, how they present themselves, the knowledge that they know, the results that they can get their clients, the authority that they can build in this space. Like that is something that comes with time, and something that can be taught as well.
Yeah. I think we oftentimes are like, it's a flex because I have a ton of letters behind my name. It doesn't always necessarily make you a great coach being like super smart. Like, I mean, I got my CSCS for fun. It was just a goal I always had, and I don't need it.
Having your
Like,
CSCS,
it is. And I think too, that's like such a thing is like some people have, there's coaches with PhDs, there's coaches with all these letters behind their name. And yeah, they're probably extremely smart, but that doesn't necessarily mean they're best coaches and vice versa. Like there's a ton of coaches who don't have letters behind their name, but they're great at coaching and maybe just don't have a ton of knowledge, but they're really great with people. And so I think just finding a blend and knowing that like someone's accreditations aren't everything, but they're necessary to coach. And I think it also goes back to like having pride in your business and in your career of like just doing the necessary thing of getting that certification because you actually respect your job and you want to be a quality level coach, I think is important. Like it's just respect for your job, plain and simple.
Great.
Cool. Did you have any other ones?
No, that was the main one that was popping up. The tailoring, the customization, that stuff we talked about. Yeah. Okay, I guess I got another one.
Cool. I got another one.
This is maybe kind of related, not related, but it is something that needs to be said. A coach with a lot of followers is not a qualification. I'm sorry, but like you have these influencers who get hundreds of thousands of followers. Suddenly they're training clients. They probably don't have any certification typically. A lot of those influencers, I'm not bogging down on all influencers. There are some amazing ones that I love, like absolutely love. They're very reputable. It's just the frustration of people thinking, oh, if I work with this famous person online, this like person with all
You're not working with them.
You're not working with them, first off. You're also probably getting the check-ins that are a minute or less. So like you're probably getting the lower quality, lower value. You're probably overpaying for their coaching because they're building exclusivity, which is not a bad thing, like making your product exclusive. But pricing it appropriately for what you are giving is super important when you're building exclusivity. And I don't see that with a lot of the online influencer trainers. So I know that our podcast is mainly for coaches, and that just goes to one, be something that you guys can preach about. Like you get online and talk about that. Like your follower counts are not the most important and are the least important qualifier when it comes to hiring a coach. Somebody's health is like so sacred. Like that is what helps them live a long life and, beat any sort of disease and medical conditions. Like it's so important when you're taking care of someone's health. And I see it so carelessly thrown around when it comes to the influencer world. And most clients who have come to work with me who have said, oh, I worked with so-and-so, and it's this, influencer with hundreds of thousands of followers, it ends up being the worst experience for them. Like they end up not having a great experience. So I just have to say that. Not that it's like Like red flag is really choosing a coach based on follower count. Like that's just not
Yeah.
what it's about.
Yeah. And, coming at it from devil's advocate is like, I love that there are so many options for people to get healthy. I don't play devil's advocate a lot, but especially in the influencer realm of like, it does frustrate me for sure. It's kind of predatory in a way. Um, but I love there's so many avenues for people to get healthy and like people to get into fitness. And I think those are stepping stones for sure. Because I've been a part of different programs where someone did, a little bit more of a cookie cutter influencer thing. And then they become coaches because they loved it so much, but they also recognize there's more to it than just this program itself. And so I think there is definitely a positive, but please do not think that because someone has 6 figures of followers that they automatically are knowledgeable and that that's like a qualifier for quality coaching. Because it's probably a lot of automated stuff. It's probably a lot of AI generated programs. And again, maybe that's a great place for you to start, but then getting better quality coaching when it's more customized and curated to you, even in the short term, is going to put you in a better spot. So yeah, it's not, and sometimes I will say, like, if you are a coach out there who has like less than 10K followers, let's say, for me, sometimes I'm like, oh, this sucks because now I just look like a general person. But like, I stopped kind of caring about that because I recognize like I can give value. Like, I'm at like 5,700 followers right now. I'd love to be at 10K, but it's kind of like at the same time, I'm helping 5,700 people through my content and talking about the tough things. And so yeah, just if you're a coach that gets discouraged with your follower account, it kind of goes back to something I'll always say that we said again in the ins and outs episode is if you had 1,000 people in front of you right now, if you even had 250 people in front of you right now, dude, you'd be freaking stoked. I'd actually shit my pants if I had 5,700 people in front of me and I was talking to them. I'd be like, this is terrifying, but it's fine because I'm behind a screen, so it's not as scary. But if they were actually in front of me, terrifying. So
Yeah.
just look at it that way too. Follower accounts are not everything, and typically you're actually going to get better service from a lower follower account.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. There's like it's a beige flag. It's
Yeah.
a beige flag. It's like
Be
the
careful
follower
who you
count
choose.
thing is like it's the last thing I actually look at. Like when
Yes.
I'm interested in someone's content, I follow a lot of really, really, really reputable PTs, people again with doctorate degrees. Like I follow a lot of people that have 10K or less followers, but then I also follow a lot of people that have hundreds of thousands of followers. It's one of those things that you just have to be good at scoping out the reputable people on the internet and like the
Yep.
ethical people on the internet and not the people who again just don't have the best interest of their clients in mind when they are promoting their business too.
Yep. Okay, I think we should finish off with one more.
Yeah.
Unless you have any more. All right. I just thought of this one. I was looking at this and I think this is a good one. So, and I think that we could have a really good conversation about it because I have been so back and forth on this topic. But it's like saying that everyone needs to eat more carbs or just in general, actually, I want to go back on that. Actually, we can still do that. I have one and it's like, you just need to eat more food. You need to eat more food. You need to eat more. I have a weird stance on this. And it's so, yes, I do believe that a lot of people are under eating. But what I do think is overlooked is not that people need to eat more. It's just they need to actually eat consistently. Because what happens is people come in and they're like, I'm eating 1,200 calories. And I'm like, but are you really? Are you actually weighing out your food? Because if you were actually eating 1,200 calories, you would be starving. And I think it's not that people need to eat more. It's that they need to understand what they're eating. Yes, absolutely. There are definitely a population of people who are eating 1,300, 1,400 calories. And I would even argue 1,600 is low long term if it's not in like a dedicated deficit. But I think too, it's like you have the people who think they're eating 1,200 calories, but they're really having maybe 1,500 on the weekdays. And then they're going out on the weekends. They're going out to eat. They're going to parties. They're going to events and they're drinking alcohol. And then they're eating the food that comes with drinking alcohol. And before you know it, they're consuming 6,000 plus calories on the weekends. taking themselves out of the deficit they think they're in, and now they're just, their body's in a whirlwind. So I don't always think that the answer is you need to eat more. I think it's that you need to actually just eat consistently, and maybe consistently try to just eat at maintenance and see how your body responds.
Yeah. No, I agree. I think that people need consistency in their diet. I also think coaches are so, and these are probably for the people who don't have as much experience, I will say, coaching clients, is like this premise that like they do calculations, BMR, TDE, and they think that that's the number that they have to work with. Like this is the number. I always say to clients when I'm onboarding them and I'm doing estimations and I'm figuring out where they should be eating, I always say, this is an estimation. This is a threshold. Body, I always say, your body is what's going to tell us what these numbers really are. It's going to take consistency for us to figure this out together. So these numbers aren't black and white. There's so much gray area when it comes to nutrition. And most of the time, yes, someone's coming to you and they're like, I've gained 20 pounds over the last 2 years. Like, but I try to eat healthy and I try to do da 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 da. That's probably the case, is like, you're not gaining 20, 40 pounds by eating 1,200 calories. Can your metabolism downregulate? Yes. Like, can your body be operating slower? Yes. Those things can happen if someone's not moving their body, not eating enough food, and just not caring for themselves. Maybe sleep is really bad. Maybe their hormones are dysregulated as well. Like, who knows what's really happening? There's so many different, it's such a loaded topic that there's so many different avenues someone can take with it. But it's really the consistency of what avenue works best for somebody's like belief system and industry, like coaching practice, whatever it is that they preach. But most of the time, just people are not eating consistently. And like, it kills me when clients are like eating at maintenance. They're like, well, I'm just bored, all this stuff. I'm like, welcome to how it should be. Like, welcome to a world where like,
exciting.
It's not meant to be sexy. It's not meant to be exciting. It's meant to be consistent. A lot of those times, those clients have had experience as far as coaches who kind of flip-flop them and like they're all over the place with their nutrition. They're always changing something. It's like, welcome to the world where like you're a human and your body just needs consistency, like literally the same amount of food for you to prime your body for a fat loss phase, for you to build muscle mass. Gosh, if you're trying to build muscle mass, that takes consistency and really boring stuff, like really just getting uncomfortable and sticking to it. So yeah, I agree. I think that there's a world where people do need to eat more. There are a lot of people that are consistently not eating enough, but overcompensating on Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and typically not tracking their food. A lot of times when clients, I always say, can you go grab a jar of peanut butter and take out a tablespoon? And you'd probably be shocked that the tablespoon you pull out is actually 3 times an actual tablespoon. You'd be shook what a serving size of peanut butter really is. Condiments, especially people who throw condiments on everything. I'm a sauce girly, okay? I want to make that very clear. I love my sauces. But those things, you got to sometimes make some substitutions because they can add up so fast. So a client did not gain 20, 40 pounds over the last 2 years by eating 1,200 calories. They did.
Nope. Yeah. And your metabolism certainly downregulates because when you're under eating long term, and I always use like thing of like 1,600 calories all the time is still under eating. 6 months or less where you're in a deficit and you're at 1,600 calories, sure, I get it. 1,800 calories, same thing. That most likely, not for everyone. Some people's maintenance calories may be 1,800, but for an active person who's lifting 4 or 5 times a week, doing some cardio, more than likely your maintenance, is above 2,000 calories. So even having 1,800 calories long term is still eating in a deficit. Even if it's a small deficit, that's still adding up to a long-term deficit where we may see some downregulation of metabolism. But when you said something, you're like, it's not sexy. Like, I think I literally want to change my bio to being like teaching you the unsexy side of fitness because like we need more coaches who are willing to do the unsexy stuff and not start somebody in a deficit immediately so they see results and they're bought into the program. I actually want to do the opposite. Like, I want to teach clients that like, you have to be okay sitting in the unsexy side. There isn't changes that are going to happen right away. But like, that's the problem is you're always expecting changes to happen right away. And when they do, they don't stick. So make sure that like what you're saying you want to happen and what actually is going to happen are the same. If you want sustainable change, then be okay with the unsexy side where shit's not going to change, because now eventually you're going to lose weight, you're going to be lean, and then you're going to actually stay lean because you are willing to not have it be super sexy. So, but I think that we should actually do an entire episode on this. Like we could talk about this for some time. So I think that we'll have this in maybe a couple months, we'll come back to this topic and really hammer down on it. Cause oh boy, I think we could get some good stuff.
Yeah, and I think the great thing of this podcast is like, it's a little bit of everything for coaches. It's like us creating the relatable episodes like this that you guys are listening to, as far as like some of you are probably listening to this, like shaking your head. You're like, yep, I feel that, heard, retweet.
Amen.
Some of you may be listening to it and you're like, okay, that's an interesting take on it. But it's really to just zoom out to see that we all have different opinions. We all have space that we can take up here in the internet, in the online coaching realm. We can agree to disagree on certain topics and, whatever, but also delivering like the educational bits that you guys want to hear about too, because there's a lot of learning that had to happen. And I think the conversations of periodization for nutrition and training, reverse dieting, like there are so many different sub conversations that can come out of that, that I'm really excited to dive in just in this podcast entirely, and like make it fun, make it cool, make it educational, make it motivational, like whatever you guys need to take from this, like come and grab it and let that be, the, I guess, education, like pouring into you, the self-improvement that you want to have for the day can be listening to this and taking something away from it.
So yeah, I think the cool part is coaching. We all have our own walks of life. We've all had our own journey to get to where we are as coaches. And that comes with a lot of anecdotal experience from our clients and even ourselves, and maybe colleagues that we've seen things and talked through opinions and what we think on a certain topic. And not everything has to be backed by science, but most should, right? Like I consider myself a science-backed coach. I read research often. I have a ton of different textbooks, certifications, things like that. But like, I don't base everything off that. I also could base it off of what I have firsthand seen from clients. And so I think that's what we also plan to share on this podcast, is a little bit of like, yes, scientific topics, all of that, but also our experience within coaching. So I think that's the really cool part that we're just excited to share. So,
and then one last thing, we have a very exciting announcement, is that we have our first Beyond the Cert cohort. We have enrollment going until February 16th. So when you guys are listening to this, you'll still be in week 1, which is our early bird week right now, where you get some extra fun bonuses. So we'll drop the link in the bio here. But if you want to learn from Kelsey and I, get some continuing education, even on the topic of certification and continuing ed, Beyond the Cert is really based on helping us bridge the gap in the fitness industry, taking what you've learned from textbook and actually learning how to apply that to clients. So taking those concepts that you may feel like, oh my gosh, now I learned this, but where the heck do I put it? Where do I apply it for somebody? Really getting that face-to-face time with Kelsey is going to be huge with this cohort. It's 12 weeks long, and just giving you guys a stellar deal for our first cohort as well. So you guys will be our VIPs. Kelsey, do you want to add anything to that?
No, I'm just so excited for it. I think it's a really great way, like Chris is saying, it's a great way to actually learn how to apply the stuff from textbooks. Like you have the science, you have all of that, and being able to actually apply it towards real life scenarios and clients, and actually doing it in live time where you have a little bit of accountability from us to be able to actually finish the course, not just buy another course and have it sit there and, be in a folder in your computer that you never touch. Actually being able to get some hands-on stuff going on and some accountability from us to stay at the course and get some continuing ed. It's continuing education units used through NASM and then ISSA, ACE, and NSCA. So 4 different avenues where you can get your continuing ed so that you can keep your personal training cert that you have, and learn along the way with a really helpful course and cohort. So we're pumped for it.
We're pumped. We'll put that in the bio or caption here for you guys. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.
See you in the next one.